The art of photojournalism. Is it an art? Okay, so let's start with what is photojournalism. Photojournalists are, at essence, journalists. If you think of World War II, this might be the image that sticks in your mind. They are taking moments in history and visualizing them. Now, what is, I think, very important is our brains work much faster at understanding visual imagery than textual imagery. And then humanity puts ourselves through terrible things like war. And so many things that exist in history are hard to make sense of if we cannot visualize them. And so you have this photojournalist role that takes that text and makes it visual, that makes us connect to these moments in history that are often terrible, or things that could really impact the way society is changing. And so we have this role, photojournalists, that are basically telling the journalism, the moments in our lives, but through pictures. Now, as Americans, one of the most probably common kinds of photojournalism are the people who deal with the president. And so you have scores and scores and scores of photographs over the generations of these presidential moments, and there are photographers whose job it is to be in the Oval Office, sometimes on the behalf of the White House, but often they are photojournalists. So their job is not to make the White House look good, but to just shoot the people who are in the White House. And so you will get all kinds of imagery, and so that helps us understand those moments. So how do these come to pass? Well, so like I said, there are White House photographers whose job it is to photograph the White House for the White House, and then there are photojournalists, and those photojournalists, basically their job is to be there and capture those moments so the rest of us understand them. So they can be moments that are very serious, like Johnson becoming the president while on a plane. But then there are also moments in the Oval Office, like here, Johnson with MLK Jr. And so those moments then become part of our national psyche. So you have images like this one of Nixon, who had to leave the presidency because he was corrupt. And those times, sometimes we don't know which photograph is the photograph. So I've seen this image many times. This is when Bush hears about 9/11, but you might not have. So what happens? How do we figure out which one's the right one? Well, that's usually from the editor. And here you see the same moment photographed by two different photojournalists and two different newspapers shooting, having different images to tell a different story. So this is Nathan Howard, one of my favorites, and I think it's incredibly well composed. And you see here Trump seated and in the moment. And so to summarize what we've already said, Nathan Howard was there. That's his job. But the artistry is picking the photograph, the moment to take the picture. And then after that, you have an editor who's like, and that's the one. So there's actually artistry, and then there's also the smarts of picking the right picture. And this is Andy Harnick, who has had this picture. And I would say that the magic here is seeing that there could be a great comparison visually. So what I'm saying is there's absolutely an art to photojournalism. So you have the ability, you have to be in the right place, certainly, but what you have to also do is understand the power of composing a correct image, an image that makes people focus on the story that's being told. Yes, I just said that the editors will pick it, but the photographer has to basically have it ready for them to pick. And so things like this, where he is centered and you have the dark shadows on the other side, basically moving your eye in here to look at this, or this, where you have this accident that is happening and you are there at the moment and you understand that this is so powerful to see these in opposition with each other. So these are people who basically understand a whole wealth of photojournalistic history and composition and art history, and then put it together into something that will keep us abreast of the story that we need to know. And that is really the point. It is about being in the know, being current, and understanding. Even if you don't know the whole story, you get a snapshot, I meant that pun, you get a look at what you should understand about this moment in history. So thank you very much for watching. Like, subscribe, tell a friend.